In today's episode, I caught up with Matt Daniels, a running legend from Geelong, Victoria. Matt Daniels, to many, would be seen as superhuman, someone you could quickly label as a natural runner if you didn't dive deep into his journey and understand the amount of work he has put in to becoming the person he is today. Matt has achieved several enormous feats like running from Adelaide to Geelong, running 55 marathons in 55 days, and 535 half marathons in 535 days. He has fundraised thousands of dollars for causes close to his heart and has shown others that with a strong enough why, anything is possible. What I find most inspiring is he has done these things whilst working full-time and supporting his family of 5 children.
Doesn't always go to plan, but never quit, always get it done and then reload and go again. Show the kids that sometimes things don't go to plan, but you've got to keep persisting and you've got to finish what you start.
He shows others that whilst life is busy, we can all get outside and be more active to be healthier and happier. Matt has been a great mentor for me and many others in the running space. It was a pleasure to host him on the podcast, and we hope you enjoy it. Welcome back to the first 42K podcast. And today I'm very excited because I've got one of my good mates, Matt Daniels, in the studio. He's an absolute weapon. I just can't wait to share his story with you. Matty, welcome.
Thanks for having us here, mate. Looking forward to it.
No, it'll be a good chat, I'm sure. I think to give people some context, so we met back in 2018. I was a young kid. I would have been 20 years old with this big goal of running 50 marathons in 50 days. And I was doing a bit of research and I read up that you'd done 55 marathons in 55 days. It actually came from another podcast. Someone told me, I think it's amazing how things happen. And I was running along at the Great Ocean Road Ultra in 2018 and I was struggling. I was 60K in my first ever Ultra and I was running next to this lady and she had her earphones in. And I was like, oh, you listen to music? She's like, no, I'm listening to the Hidden Athlete podcast. This guy called Matt Daniels. She starts telling me, she's like, he's run 55 marathons in 55 days. I was like, oh my God. So I finished the run, remembered the name, then got in touch and here we are today.
Yeah, I remember the phone call. I remember you giving me a buzz and just reaching out and telling me about what you wanted to do with the 50 marathons, which was, it was awesome that you reached out and went on to do your 50 and 50 and obviously plenty more runs since. So, it was good how it all panned out.
Yeah, no, beautiful. And I think very unreal how it can happen like that. So, mate, your journey, I did mention you've done a lot, but let's start there because I think the 55 marathons in 55 days was, obviously one of your biggest and first feats with CAD's course.
Yeah, so that was in 2000. When was it? Looking back, 2016, the marathons. 55 marathons in 55 days in memory of, Andrew Cadigan. So I read a book that inspired me called With Every Step, and that was by Andrew's dad, Neil. I picked it up from a bookshop in Melbourne when I was up there for the weekend with Lee. And again, it's just funny sort of how it panned out. I picked up the book, read the back of it, knew that I'd absolutely love it, and then got home and pretty much got stuck straight into it. And over the course of the next 2 days, read the book from start to finish. Obviously, I knew how it tragically ended with CAD passing away, but as soon as I put the book down, I messaged Neil and I thought I just felt compelled to do something for CAD and keep his legacy alive. So I went on to do the 55 marathons in 55 days in memory of Andrew Cadigan and to raise money for the Leukemia Foundation. So, and that was all on the back of reading the book and being incredibly inspired by what CAD did, which was walking around Australia for 18 months in memory of a mate.
It's unreal, mate. Well done. And I think it's quite amazing. Like when I first heard that and I thought, I guess with me and my running, it started through tragedy in losing my mate Joey. But then I was like, you didn't even know CAD, but were just so inspired by his story and so compelled to continue his legacy. So then the 55 marathons in 55 days and raising thousands of dollars for the Leukemia Foundation. And that was a huge journey. And at the time, a Guinness World Record as well. Yeah,
it was a Guinness World Record. That was a bit of fun. So once I read the book, I was just trying to work out what I could do to raise some money and like I said, continue CAD's legacy and raise some funds for the Leukemia Foundation, which was CAD's cause. So had a look at the world record. I think it was 53 at the time. So I planned on doing 54 and a mate of mine reached out and said, if you do 54, chuck me on for one more and we'll make it 55. So I said, all right, what's one more marathon? So it ended up being 55 marathons, in 55 days. And it was an incredible 55 days. It was awesome to do and awesome to honour Cad that way. Raised some really good money. His dad Neil come down for the last run, which is fantastic to meet him, and it was just an epic 55 days.
Definitely. We'll chat more about Cad and about Neil and I guess what then unfolded next with your challenge. But let's talk about that 55 a little bit more. Obviously, to get to that point, like you don't just decide overnight you're going to run 55 marathons in 55 days. So what was your training leading into that? Had you always been a runner? Was it years of work? I imagine a body of work before that.
Yeah, definitely. So 2010, I ran the Melbourne Marathon. Was my first taste of of running and doing an event, and like you, finishing it and absolutely loving the experience once the pain leaves the body a few days later. And then from there, it's always running ever since then, pretty much since 2010, on and off a bit. 2014, I did the run from Adelaide to Geelong. So that was over 12 days in memory of my nana, who passed away with breast cancer. So I did that run in memory of my nana, raised some money for the BCNA. And that was in 2014. So after that, I sort of, was looking for a big challenge, and then, just be luck that I found that book in Melbourne, and then did Cad's run in 2016. But obviously in the lead up, sort of really good 6 to 8 months of training prior to that, just getting plenty of Ks and legs and trying to stay injury free and just hit the start line feeling as fresh as I possibly could in preparation for something that I wasn't sure how it was all going to pan out. But in the end, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, at 6 years though, as you said, so from that first marathon, 6 years before you even took on the 55 marathons in 55 days.
Yep. So a big one in 2014. There's a couple of ultra runs and stuff like that in there as well. So pretty consistent running for the best part of, I suppose, 6 years leading into something like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, mate, I think that's probably one of the things I love most about you is you get it done. You do the work. There's a lot of people who don't do the work out there. And we always talk about, we're both running coaches. We're going to talk more about that a bit later. But we always talk about consistency and how consistency is the biggest thing. And I probably mentioned that on every episode of the podcast, and people are probably like, shut up, Shawnee. But it is. And I think, you can't just run 55 marathons in 55 days by thinking about it and going, I'm going to do it tomorrow. This is years and years of work. So firstly, well done in putting that work in, but I think it also comes from a place because you love it so much. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely love it. And have done, for the best part of over a decade now. So, that consistency comes easy now and comes pretty natural, but early on, you've just got to chip away at it. Like you said, be consistent with your running, so it's sustainable, but get out and enjoy the process, and the results, the outcome will look after themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we can encourage people to check out With Every Step and have a look at that book, because I think I've read it as well. An amazing book and an awesome way to understand, I guess, Andrew Cadigan and his extraordinary effort in walking around Australia a little bit more. But just to give a little bit more context to that as well. So he set off on December 27, 2010. Is that right?
Yep, spot on, yep.
And then he got back from his walk on June 14, 2012.
Correct, yep.
So
that's exactly what he did. He lost to mate Chris Simpson with a rare leukemia condition. So I think Cad had just thought, he was obviously shattered by his best mate's death, and then wanted to do something to honour Simo. So he just sort of set off without any major plan of attack, there. So he just set off on the Sydney Harbour Bridge and left and did his thing. And then, battled the elements for 18 months, but just refused to quit and surrender, went through everything. And then, finished 18 months later, which was an incredible feat.
Extraordinary. And so then that's sort of, it's a nice segue to what followed. Obviously, again, another extraordinary effort in fundraising for leukemia. But you then went and did 535 half marathons in 535 days in the exact same, time frame. So you started on the 27th of December as well and finished June 14, 18 months later.
So I was looking to do at the end of 2016. So I did the 55 in 55 at the start of 2016. At the end of 2016, I did a 24-hour treadmill run. So I covered 160 Ks on the treadie. Again, that was for Cad's cause and raised a little bit more money for the Leukemia Foundation. And then, by the end of 2017, was starting to get a little bit restless and wanting a bigger challenge, and was trying to, I suppose, complete my mission by honouring Cad and trying to work out what way I could do that best. With a family and running a business and all that sort of stuff, obviously I couldn't do what Cad did around Australia. Otherwise, I would have definitely done that. So, I just basically picked his start date and end date, and that worked out to be 535. And I lined up a half marathon every single day for 535 consecutive days, and completed that. Didn't miss a run in a year and a half. I think it was about 11,300 Ks of running over 535 days, and completed my mission to CAD.
Massive. All while you had 4 children at the time, obviously 5 now.
5 now, yep.
But 4 children at the time and working full time with your own business as well.
Yeah, running a PT studio, so group training and plenty of one-on-one stuff, and then obviously the kids and family life and all that sort of stuff. So looking back, I'm not sure exactly how I did it, but we got through it every day, and just chipped away at it. Had incredible support from my wife Lee and all the kids, and everyone at the gym was amazing. So looking back, it was a really big 18 months.
And it didn't go smoothly as well. Like, obviously there were some great days out there. There always is in that many, but there's some tough days as well during it. Even so much that there was a car accident during your 535 challenge.
Yeah, there actually was. So I was pretty fortunate that I ran that morning. So I ran that morning, ticked off a half marathon, and in the afternoon, Lee and I were just heading to pick up my older boys from the cinema, 15 minutes down the road, which was no worries. We did that, and we were on our way back and just sitting at the lights waiting to light to go green, and next minute, we're sort of getting pushed through the lights from behind. A lady was probably on the phone and hit us pretty hard, and then pushed us through the lights and ran into us pretty hard. So completely ruined the car. The boys, fortunately, obviously were okay, which was great. But all of us had to go to hospital and get checked out and all those sort of things. So I was a little bit bashed up from that, a little whiplash and stuff like that. But got out the next day and powered on and got another half marathon done. But we were very, very lucky there.
How did you go in the hospital when you're trying to explain to them you have to run a half marathon the next day?
Yeah, well, they said, do you need a doctor's certificate for work? And, you should really take it easy for at least a week. You've pretty sore neck and all those sort of things. So I just, agreed to whatever they said, knowing full well I was going to get out the next day and get the half marathon done and keep the dream alive. Unreal.
How far in through that or how far in for the 535 were you, do you think?
I reckon, I can't remember from memory, but I was a fair way into the journey. Yeah.
Unreal. And you had days, like what would have been the hottest day you were running in?
So obviously there's a couple of summers in there. So when it was really hot, I did try to get out as early as I possibly could to beat the heat, but there was some really hot days in there, sort of 35 plus. I remember running a few times, and being pretty fatigued on those days. Obviously still work and family life and stuff like that, but definitely some hot days in there, 30, 35 degrees plus, and plenty of cold mornings too, where I've got the skins on and the long sleeve and the gloves and the beanie and all those sort of things. So, it was saw all the seasons out there, but that was always the mission. So just chip away and get it done one day at a time.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video on Facebook or Instagram or something like that with you running and just the rain coming down. Like, get after it. This is what it's about.
Yeah, I remember that one. I think I had my my son might have been on the bike with a bit of filming and absolutely belting down, just getting the run done. So it was all no worries really. It was always the mission to do that, and nothing was going to stop me.
Yeah, unreal, mate. Well done. So how much have you fundraised now for Leukemia Foundation?
Yeah, so I reckon with the treadmill run and with CADS, the 55 and then the half marathons, I think it's close to $50,000 for the Leukemia Foundation, or which CADS cause. So that was fantastic to do that. And then obviously with the Breast Cancer Network Australia with the Adelaide to Geelong run, that was sort of another 25, I think 30 grand for the BCNA back in 2014. So really proud of the fundraising efforts along the way, and that's been awesome. Lots of support from everyone, which has been pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. No, for sure. And now, so obviously you referenced there during the 535 challenge, having your own gym and being a PT, you've now got your own running coaching group as well, with a lot of kilometre kings and queens who did really well just on the weekend. We're recording this a day after the Gold Coast Marathon. So obviously the half marathon and the marathon's just been. Obviously, I think one of the biggest things that we've already spoken about is the importance of loving running, because if you do love it, you're then going to show up. But that also transfers as a coach. You must feel so proud of all your athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. The run coaching journey, it's like it was meant to be. I was fortunate enough to to sell my gym that I owned and operated for 13 years just prior to COVID. So we got really lucky there. I'm really fortunate that worked out the way it did. And then it was only sort of 4 months after selling the gym that I started run coaching. I'd put together plenty of plans as a PT for runners, over the course of the 13 years as a PT. But when COVID hit, I put out a bit of a calling for sort of 5K, 10K and half marathon runners to see if people were keen, and it sort of snowballed from there, and it's turned into, obviously a full-time job now, and it's awesome. Got clients all around Australia doing all sorts of events, all sorts of different fitness levels, and they all love it. Yeah, we lace them up every morning and get it done. So the community is awesome, and so many great athletes out there of all shapes and sizes and distances as well. So the weekend, up here was pretty special, and looking forward to the second half of the year.
Yeah, nice. Well, one thing that I really love as well, one of your messages is we live in deed, not years. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, why is that such an important thing for you?
Yeah, so that was in the back of the book that Neil put together, and he was obviously talking about CAD and the work that he'd done for his mate Simo. So, and just what CAD had done, to go through all the things that he had to endure over 18 months to honour Simo. So the we live in deed, not years was from the back of Neil's book, and he mentioned that at CAD's funeral, and that was a thing that was a bit of a theme at CAD's funeral. So I sort of roll with that from the work that I've done in memory of CAD during the marathons and the treadmill and the 535. So we live indeed. It's what it's all about, really. Not so much the years we live, but what we do with the years we've got here. So that's a pretty special little thing I like to think back on.
So true. So well said. What would be your biggest advice to someone just starting out with running? Obviously, like, here's you and I who are very experienced talking about all these big feats we've done for charity and these sorts of things. But sometimes it can be, while they can draw inspiration from that, it's so disconnected to where they are, because we're someone, you and I have been doing this, in my case, for 6 years, in your case for 13 years now. What would your advice be to someone who's just thinking about getting started with long distance running?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm really big on goals. So just having, first of all, a goal to work towards, and it might just be your 5K. So I've had plenty of athletes that have started with the run-walk schedule, and will build up from 0 to 5K over 10, 12, 14 weeks, whatever it may be. But they've got a goal there. Their first initial goal might just be to get from, exactly that, 0 to running 5K non-stop. So I think if you have that goal initially, that really gives your training some purpose, gives your training some motivation. You're more inclined to get out and work towards that goal. So I'm really big on having a goal initially and working towards that, and just taking small steps and starting at a level that you're able to start at, and that might be 30 seconds of running into 90 seconds of walking, and then we build up from there, and we get you from 0 to 5K, and then we go, okay, now sort of where we're going to. Is it 10K, or do you want to do that 5K a little bit quicker? And then the natural progression becomes really enjoyable, because it's not overwhelming. You're not anxious about getting out because you're overwhelmed with the distance or the pace that you have to run or anything like that. And you start to really enjoy the process, and then you tick off your goals, 5K, 10K. Before you know it, you're running a marathon like a lot of my crew did yesterday. That was their first marathon, and a lot of them started from that run-walk starting point, which is amazing. Yeah,
that's unreal, I think. And for them to be able to look back and be like, we're with you every step of the way, and to get to 5K, then 10, then a half, then a full, it's so cool. So well done on all of your success with the running coaching as well. What would be, and this might be too hard of a question to answer, but obviously you've done a lot. We have talked about it, but we sort of brushed over even Adelaide to Geelong, which is huge. Obviously, Adelaide to Geelong, you've done the 55 marathons in 55 days, 535 half marathons in 535 days, and more. But even if we're just talking about those three, do you have a favourite, and why?
That is a tricky question. They're all really, really special. Obviously, the first one was really special. I went away with Mum and Lee and a few mates with the Adelaide to Geelong in 2014. I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to go, or I knew I'd get back and complete the mission. But that one was really special. Obviously, it was in memory of my nana, so doing that was it was really close to home. And then obviously the 55 and 55, the world record was a bit of fun, but that was a really special way of honouring CAD. And then that led to the 535, which I think out of the three, that was definitely the most challenging. Just the time, 18 months of running a half marathon every day. It's 150 Ks a week, just about, every single week for 70 plus weeks. So looking back, they're all really special in their own unique way for different reasons. But the 535 is probably right up there just because of the time and the dedication it took every single day to get it done. Like I said, looking back now, to be honest, I'm not sure how I got through it all.
So cool. Yeah, I remember, I think it was like day 2 of my Jog for Joey, the 50 and 50 was your 400th day. So It was pretty cool. We were running together. I was like, let's get out to Geelong and make this happen. So yeah, we've spent a lot of time running together, and I'm always inspired by what you're doing with your running. Obviously did the Gold Coast Marathon yesterday, which we'll talk a little bit about, because I think it's so important for us to share when races don't go to plan as well. Like we just mentioned, we hear all these incredible things and the success, but yesterday the marathon at Gold Coast didn't go to plan.
Yeah, no, it didn't go to plan at all. It's a bit of a nightmare out there, unfortunately. But yeah, sometimes that just happens. Like I had a really, really good lead in, 20 weeks of training, didn't miss a single run, didn't miss a single strength session, tapered really well, carb loaded perfectly, felt really good before the run kicked off, and then as soon as the gun went off and we all went off, I felt like I was just struggling a little more than usual to hold the pace that I was holding, and it wasn't anything fast. So I sort of planned to go out quite conservatively and then sort of pick it up late. But early on, it was just a real struggle. I felt quite flat. Achilles was playing up a little bit, which I'd had a bit of a niggle late last year with that. So, and then didn't feel well in the stomach, and then sort of got to 15, 18 Ks, and it felt like I'd, was at the back end of a marathon. I was really struggling. So definitely didn't go to plan. I'm not 100% sure why just yet, but made it to 24K, and then wanted to throw in the towel and had the mental demons there saying just call it a day. But I pretty much made a pact with myself from there. What we'll do is we'll just run, walk, and get this done. So I've never really done that before in a marathon. But the only way, I'm a realist, so the only way I was going to get it done yesterday was just run, walk from 24K onwards. So it was a bit of a grind, one of my slower marathons, but really proud of the fact that I sort of just hung in there. I got it done, got the medal, and lived to fight another day. So we'll rest up and reload, and maybe give the full marathon a break for a little bit and do a few halves, and then jump back into the marathon down the track. But it doesn't always go to plan, but I never quit, always get it done, and then reload and go again.
Unreal. Yeah, I saw you around the 24K mark and was like, oh no, what's happened? And could see the Achilles, you were in a bit of trouble with that. And but to then see you then finish it off, I was like, this is who he is. This is what it's about. So many other people would have just stepped off course. And as you said, you had the demons telling you to do exactly that, but you stayed in the fight and didn't care about time and said, no, I'm going to get this done. Last year's Gold Coast Marathon, one of the pros, Yuki Kiwachi, he's incredible. He's got more sub 220 marathons than anyone in history, something like 107 of them. And he ran 2 hours 12 again yesterday. So he's one of the elites, one of the pros. And last year he did his hamstring around 10 kilometers. And any other pro would have walked off the course. And especially being a pro, you can't judge these guys for doing that because they're probably racing all the time. Yep. But he stayed out there.
Yep.
And he did it in 3 hours 57 to be finishing like anyone else coming through. And people were finishing next to him and like, do you know who that is? And I think just so many big lessons there for people is even if it doesn't go to plan, even if you have a bad day, stay in the fight because it's a massive inspiration to people around you. Obviously, not just the runners that you coach, but your family, your friends, people like myself who watched on and like, Matty's still out there. He's still got it done when so many would have stepped off the course.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly right. I think you got to stay in the fight no matter what. It's really easy for me yesterday to step off at 24K when I saw you. And then even getting back to the start line area, sort of that 30, 31, 32K mark, that was really tempting again. And, you have the voices in your head, just call it a day, go and grab your bag, you're done. Because heading out for another 6 and then coming back for another 6, that's another hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes with the whole run walk thing I was doing. So much easier to throw the towel in and call it a day. But I would have been, extremely disappointed. I've never done that. So not what I'm about. So it was just ignore the time. That's long gone. Let's just grind this one out and get it done. Get a medal and show the kids that sometimes things don't go to plan, but you've got to keep persisting and you've got to finish what you start.
Yeah. For sure. And so now you said give the marathon a little bit of a rest and train towards some faster halves. So will you be thinking Melbourne Marathon, try and go for a fast half there?
Yeah, spot on. Yep. So I'll have a good, like to have sort of anywhere from 7 to 10 days off completely post a marathon. So even though it didn't go to plan and I feel reasonably okay today, I will take, sort of 7 to 10 days off. A really light week next week, and then I think that's about 13 weeks after a fortnight. I think it's about 13 weeks from Melbourne. Yeah, so I'll do a build up and try and run a really solid half there and get some confidence back and run a really good half there, and then maybe pencil in a few halves at the start of 2024 and then have a look at some things there. So looking forward to cutting the Ks a little bit and focusing on running some really good half marathons.
Yeah, awesome. I think it's important. I think it's so good to challenge the body in different ways, different stimulus, whether it is a really long ultra, like you've done a lot of them, whether it's back-to-back stuff, whether it's a fast marathon or now going for halves. I had so much fun in 2020, the year I then went for a fast marathon as well. And it's because I think in the last 6 years of my running career, it's pretty much all just been long and slow stuff, back to back and these sorts of things, which I do love, but just to change it up. I reflect back on that 2020 year and obviously COVID, and it was challenging and all those things. That was when Melbourne had the 1 hour exercise restrictions in place, and then it changed to 2 hours, and I was doing stupid things like running from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. to say that I was running 2 hours a day to get my 4 hour long run, all of these things. But that time I cherish. I think back on it and I was like, it was so good to just go for a fast marathon. And I don't see when I'm going to do that anytime soon, because obviously we've got the big run around Australia in March next year. And maybe it's something that I could look at following that. But I just think for you now, this would be a really good opportunity to freshen up mentally as well. Obviously give the body, as we spoke about, that change of stimulus, and you'll feel physically refreshed, but I think mentally as well, it'll be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And that's why I'm doing it. And that's what I love about running. Exactly like you said, you can go all sorts of different ways. We can come down and focus on a faster 5, a faster 10, a faster half, which will obviously only help your marathon time down the track. You can go back and do the marathon. You can go and do the ultras. You can do the real crazy stuff like you do. So there's so many different ways to go with running, and that's what I love. There's always this never-ending search for improvement over certain distances. And you take the time out of it, and sometimes you just go out and enjoy it. And whether that's a 5K park run or a 10K or a half marathon, it's good just to keep mixing it up, like you said.
Absolutely. And I think especially while it's front of mind, the Gold Coast Marathon yesterday, there's many people out there with a lot of excuses of why they can't run, why they can't do this. And the final finisher of the marathon, I stayed around to watch. I was in tears. Everyone around me was in tears. He has stage 4 cancer and he finished the marathon. And it took just over 7 hours. And I put on my story, I was like, now what I say? I said, now I dare you to tell me you can't do hard things.
Yeah.
Like, if he can get out there, we can all get out there. And, I feel like I'm choking up now even talking about it. Just incredible. The human spirit in a marathon. If you've never even been to a marathon, just go and watch. Yep. Just go and spectate. Go. You don't have to hand out any lollies or Zuba-Dubas or anything like that. Awesome if you do. Hold a sign. These sorts of things. But just get down there, because it is, I feel, life-changing even from a spectating point of view. Yeah,
I agree. There's nothing like it. Nothing, Leah, quite like the finish line or towards the end of a finish line of a marathon. It's truly unbelievable. Taking part, obviously, is another thing. But, just getting down there, witnessing people of all shapes and sizes, getting it done in whether it's 2.5 hours right through to 7 hours, it's truly incredible. And the support that all the people out on the course were giving yesterday from, K1 right through the end was amazing. Just complete strangers coming up and trying to inspire you and get you to the finish line. So there's nothing like the running community. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the signs. I remember back in my first marathon, and it was like your morning sweat. Your morning was pain, sweat and tears. My morning, sleep in, coffee, bacon and eggs. Yeah. I saw the bacon and eggs guy was cooking. I think it was about 11K. They had the bacon and eggs out there yesterday. So, it brings everyone out. Yeah, it was very funny. And I remember that sign. And then there was one yesterday. I was like, this is unreal. It was like, pain is temporary, Strava is forever. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So no, really, really cool. Well, Matty, I feel chat all day. I think, as I mentioned, like with this podcast, I normally have a few notes to refer to about my guests. I wanted to just go for it because I think that it's incredible what you've done, all these things, and I wanted to go deeper into different areas with our conversation. But you're a massive inspiration to me and a mentor to me. Thank you so much for everything you've done for me. From when I reached out in 2018, as I spoke of, you didn't have to answer and support a young kid with big dreams, but you did. And I always talk about the real 5 key mentors in my life who have been there. And it's my coach Jace, it's DJ, it's Dave Alley, it's yourself, and it's Samantha Gash. So, mate, to have such a big impact on my life, thank you. And I know that you've had that impact not just on me, but on so many other people in running and outside of running as well. I want to, before we finish off, just because I think it's important to hear a little bit more about your upbringing from were you always a runner? Did you grow up as a runner, or where did this come from, this passion to just give it a go 13 years ago?
Yeah. So, I grew up in Anglesea, so coastal town down there in Victoria, which I absolutely loved. Growing up, looking back now, I was into the running from an early age. So I remember running through the empty streets of Anglesea early in the morning, running down to the beach, doing some stairs, doing some hills, and then jogging back with a mate. I had a mate there that I used to go and drag out of bed, and we'd get rolling through the streets of Anglesea and just chat along the way. So I remember those mornings really fondly. And looking back now and knowing, obviously, from having my own kids and just seeing, kids in primary school and in high school, I'm not sure many of them are getting up and going out and running, 5, 8, 10 Ks early before school. So that's what I was doing back in the day. So, I always loved it, loved everything about it. And then, it's just sort of grown from there.
Yeah. And I always ask this question on the podcast as well, is tell me about your first 42K. So tell me about your first marathon. I know we spoke about it a little bit, but what was it like? Obviously you liked it enough to then do another one and to do many more things following that. Yep. But that first experience, did it go to plan?
Yeah, well, I didn't really know what to expect. I had no idea really what I was doing, to be perfectly honest. So I went in there with a few training runs under my belt. I'm not sure there was that many long runs in the lead up. I didn't know anything about nutrition or carbs beforehand. I just sort of went in there, had the big baggy basketball shorts on, had the Fit and Focus t-shirt on representing the gym, and was just determined to get it done. So I stayed up the night before in Melbourne, and then got going. I think I was okay probably till about 20, 25K, and then the wheels probably fell off, and it was a bit of a grind to the end. But I remember finishing it and it was a Melbourne Marathon, so I was doing the lap of the G at the end and being pretty happy. I think I just snuck under 4 hours, and then loved it, and then obviously went back for more after that. But looking back, didn't really have much of an idea as to what I was doing, but we got it done.
That's the beauty in it. I had no idea what I was doing in my first marathon.
I don't think many people do, to be honest.
Nah, and it's funny, you can see who've prepared and who hasn't prepared, and it's and I hope that people do prepare a little bit more seriously, especially if you listen to this podcast, you're thinking about running a marathon. Just understand that you need to give yourself some time. Don't go in too quickly, because ultimately you may have an experience where then you finish it and you're like, I don't ever want to do that again. Yep. Versus giving yourself time, a little bit more of a sustainable approach, and then you can actually love the finish line and love the moment, and not just the finish line, enjoy that whole journey. So then you do finish and you're like, let's do it again.
Yeah, totally.
You and I see that with our athletes. I think it's a really important thing. That's why consistency is the biggest one, because it's the journey, not destination. The body loves consistency. We've got to be, consistently moving. And I think that people often confuse intensity with consistency. As you and I were talking just about our runners as we're driving here together, about even if you can't get an hour in, go out for 30 minutes, whatever you can do. If you could run a half marathon every day while working full time and having 4 kids, then I think people can get out and just be a little bit more consistent. It will go a long way with their running.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you've got to, especially for the longer distances, the half and the marathon especially, you really need to respect the distance, respect the event, and do all the training to prepare the best you possibly can. So like you said, you get to the end, sure, it's hard after 30 Ks, but you've trained for it and you're physically and mentally prepared. So you can finish it, enjoy that moment crossing the finish line, and then want to do another one down the track, as opposed to throwing the towel in and never wanting to run again because it was the worst experience of your life because you didn't prepare well and you didn't stay consistent with your training. So you've really got to respect the marathon. There's nothing like it. It's it's an incredible event.
For sure. So where can people follow you, Matty, if they want to get in touch, whether it be just with running tips or even running coaching as well?
Yeah, so I'm on probably Instagram's the best one. So online run coaching there. I've got a page up there with lots of success stories and all sorts of bits and pieces on that page, and a few of the programs I offer and stuff like that. So that's probably the best bet. Online run coaching on Instagram.
Yeah. Awesome, Matty. Well, as I said, it's been an absolute pleasure to be your friend the last 6 years and to get a number of runs done together. I look forward to more runs with you as well, and thanks for jumping on the podcast.
No worries. Just for wrapping it up, I just want to say, a big congrats to you on all your recent runs. Absolute machine getting through all the stuff you get through. So we often talk, both of us, about talking the talk and then actually following through with it. And you're one person that puts it out there, but then goes ahead and gets it done. So inspiring to me, inspiring to my runners, inspiring to the whole running community, what you're doing and what you're about to embark on. So keep doing the awesome work with the first 42, and big good luck to you for next year's epic event. Have no doubt whatsoever you'll get it done like you have with all your other running endeavours. So keep up the awesome work, mate.
No, awesome. Thanks again, Matty. We hope that you love the podcast, and if you did, please leave a review and share it with others. Did you know that you can train with us at First 42K for as little as $9.95 per week? If you're looking to fall in love with running and achieve your first 5K, 10K, half marathon or marathon, unlock your 1 week free trial at first42k.com.au. I'd like to thank our partners at HGG Performance for providing the podcast space. HGG Performance manufactures strength and rehabilitation equipment, which is hugely beneficial for runners looking to improve performance and prevent injury. Use the code FIRST42K for 10% off their products. Until next time, live happy and run strong.